exponent's going to have to move in the fraction. So everything is currently on top. So we're going to drop those 2 to the bottom. Now you could have actually also combined some things together, but I'm just going to move them now that I said that. So a lot of times there's more than one way to do something. So just because I did it a certain way doesn't mean you have to as well. Now the 2 to the 3rd power is going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, and that'll be on the bottom. So now we can simplify it one more time. So 2 over 8, again, if I eat 2 slices out of 8 slices of a pizza, that's 1/4 of the pizza. There's more y's on the bottom, there's 5 more, so they're all gonna end up on the bottom, there'll be 5 of them. And the x to the 3rd is gonna stay on top. Now you do not need the 1 is unnecessary. But if you want it there, you're welcome to. Okay. Questions? All right. So that one kind of had multiplication, it had negative exponents, had power to a power. This one has division, negative exponents, and multiplication, kind of a lot going on between these two. So the top I'm not going to do anything with right now. The bottom I am going to put it together. So 2 times 4 is 8. The x to the negative 1, the x to the 2nd, I'm going to put those together. Negative 1 and 2 would be a 1, x to the 1st. Now if you did something different with them, like maybe you moved one of them or something, that would be perfectly fine. There's still a y down here as well. Now I look and I see that there's more x's on the top and more y's on the top. Now the 3 over 8 is just going to stay as it is. Every once in a while I see someone subtract those because they're thinking of exponents. Just treat those like normal fractions. So the x and the y are going to end up on top because there's just one more on top. Okay. Our next thing is our simplifying. So that's our exponent rules. Again, I do have a bunch of practice problems for you guys on our homework for tonight. Again, for our homework, we're probably going to do half of this packet, and then we'll do the other half next time after we go through some questions. That way you guys hopefully feel ready for our test on Tuesday. So we're going to distribute in example 3 here. Well, first of all, I picked this one because of the fact that 4 minus 3 sometimes kind of jumps out at you that you're like, oh, I want to do that. 4 minus 3 is 1. I'll do that and then distribute. We do need to distribute first. So that's why I grabbed this one. Definitely like a tougher one in terms of difficulty. Negative 3 times 1. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6x. Then there's also a negative 1 that distributes here. And then we're just going to put our like terms together. I like putting the x's together first, just for standard form. So 6 minus 1 is 5x. I wouldn't take off on this test for you guys for that, but I think it's just easier. And then the 4 minus 3 is 1, plus 7 would be 8. And that one we don't need to solve or do anything else with it because they just want us to simplify. Now this next one is the puppy problem. We don't want to kill puppies. So this is either FOIL or box method. So we want to write it twice. And it doesn't matter which one you guys use. You should still get the same answer. Once we're to this point, then we want to combine the like terms, which the like terms are going to be usually in the center or diagonally. Not always though. But they do not cancel. So that's our simplified polynomial there. Sorry, the next one should have a title. The next two should have a title of solving equations. It doesn't say that there, but it should say that. So in that same day, we did solving equations, which I would say out of all this stuff, it's probably the thing you guys might be the best at, just because we did a lot of solving equations. Bless you. Now the one I threw out there, number 5, is one we've kind of seen probably a little bit more in geometry or something similar to this, is trying to get that x alone. What are we going to do first? Yeah, let's get rid of that 2. And like I said, this is something that we use this year, whereas in, left to hang it.
No, I don't remember. She fist bumped the hand. High
5. 8 times 2 is 16. Like I said, we have seen that a little bit more like when we were doing our volume and surface area. But when I teach that in algebra, it's definitely a tougher question for students because they don't really see the need for it, I think. Or example 6 has some of everything, kind of as complicated as we can get in terms of a linear equation. Lots of places to lose things here. I'm going to combine some like terms. Now, I typically like moving the smaller variable, and technically the 9 is smaller. So I would move the 9x over, but it doesn't really matter. I think this one's a decimal, right? Unless I did something wrong.
I've got one other. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm wrong.
Okay, I was like,
Whoops.
no, and I'm like, it's totally possible. I was just like kind of freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what I did wrong. So we combine some things together. Now we're going to move this 10 over. And then we'll divide. It's not the nicest number in the world, but just negative 7/8 or a decimal, whatever you guys put in this. All right, our next thing is slope and function notation. Now, this problem with function notation is a little bit tougher because it has an exponent, and it happens to be negative as well, so that kind of throws an extra difficulty level in here. But hopefully you guys can handle that. Now, when I do a problem like this, I'm just replacing the x, and then I have to follow order of operations. So I'm going to square it first. So negative 2 squared would be 4. So I do 4 times 4 minus 5, and it's a positive 4. It's negative 2 times negative 2. So this ends up being 11. Our next one is slope. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. 2 negatives would just make a positive. So this would be a positive 1/2 as our slope. Right. My opinion would be we should just finish up the notes if that's okay. And then, like I said, give you half the homework, and then we won't have notes to do Monday. We'll have all our review notes done. And that way you guys can ask better questions on Monday if needed, if there's something we should go over more of. If you just like dying for more exponent rules, you know, do that. Or shouldn't find it fine.
What do you think?
All right. So our linear equations, y equals mx plus b. So we have to get the y alone. So we're going to move this x over. Now when I do that, I like writing the negative x first. plus our 12 here. And so we're going to divide everything by 3. So our equation ends up being a negative 1/3 x plus 4. So I'm going to begin at 4 and then go down 1 and over 3. And the negative can be on the top or the bottom. So there's our graph. Our next one kind of asking us to do all the steps. So we have to first find our slope. So I found my slope. Once I find my slope, then I use that to find my b value. So I'm picking one of the 2 points to use. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to use the first one and put them into y equals mx plus b. And use that to find our b. There's our equation of our line that goes through those 2 points. Okay. And then our last thing was elimination and substitution. And then, like I said, I'll give you guys the rest of the time to get working on homework. Again, with us dropping tomorrow, kind of explain what I'll have you guys do here for homework. Jumbled together. Okay. Oh, they got pushed over there. That's what happened. Okay. So our first one, they want us to solve by substitution. So this is like what we just did for our homework quiz question here today. We're taking this and substituting it in place of y. So now we're going to combine some like terms. We have 17x equals 17, which means x is 1. I don't know if we did this one already or just the numbers sound familiar. And then we put this back in to find our y. And again, it shouldn't matter which one we put it back in, but usually one is easier than the other to substitute it back in for. So I usually go for that one, but if you did want to check it, it should work in both. Okay. And I actually picked this last one because it's a little bit tougher than some of the ones we've done in our notes. I thought I'd mention it just because I don't think we've done one like this in our notes. This is one where you have to multiply both equations by something.
We have this in our homework.
Yeah, and I think there's some like that, but I just wanted to make sure we did one together. So I have to decide, because 8 and 7, I can't multiply something by 7 to make it into 8 without using some crazy decimals. Don't want to do that. 3 and 2, same thing. That one wouldn't be as bad of a decimal. But what I would rather do is I'd rather make them the same number by multiplying both equations, but then the opposite sign. So would you rather work with the 8 and 7 or 3 and 2?
3 and
3 and 2 are nicer to work with because we can make them both into 6. I'm going to do a negative and a positive 6y. Is kind of like my goal there. So the top equation, I'm going to multiply by a positive 2. The bottom equation by a negative 3. Okay? Good job actually getting a high five down this time. All right. So we have a 16x, a positive 6y, and a negative 14. And it doesn't matter which one you make negative, as long as you make one of them. Negative 21x minus 6y equals 9. And technically you could multiply both by positives and then subtract them. I don't like to do the subtraction. I think it's confusing for some people, so I don't like teaching it that way, but it's fine to do it if that works. So this ends up like kind of working out pretty nicely here again. X ends up being 1 again. And once we know x is 1, then we can just substitute it back into either equation to find our y. It doesn't matter which equation I put it back into. I might just use the bottom one because the numbers are a little smaller. Okay. So, what we're going to do for our homework is we are going to do the odds. But there's a couple of questions where some of the questions have multiple parts, like they have an A, B, C, and any letter A. So let me explain what I mean by that. So there's a question number 19. So on question 19, you're just going to do letter A. B and C we'll save for another time. So anytime you see where it has letters, do just letter A. Does that make sense? If they're numbers, do the odds. If there's letters, do letter A. If it don't make sense, just do them all.
Does it say we come up with it?
Yeah. So it is a packet. It's like I said, it's a review. It's 31 total questions. So I think that means we'd be at about 15 questions here today-ish. 16 probably because of we're doing the odds.
I'll do Van Listen.
Okay.
Actually, I have 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Do you write Van Listen twice?
Yep.
Yeah.